Hello. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Um, Thank you, Diane and Fran, for my fantastic chakra candle. Thank you, Kat, for my fantastic whiskey glass. First of the day, as my mom always says. And I'm going to jump right into some dreams because I've had some just doozies lately. So if you're up for some oddball story time, that's what's ahead. I'm certainly aware of all the kind of chaotic energy and events that are going on, and there's a lot to say about it, and there's very little to say about it in another way because it's just more of the same. So, hold on. I mean, try to live in the moment as much as you can. Try to do the good that you can do in the world that you live in, the smaller world that you live in, or the bigger world that you're walking in, and that's as much as you can do, and that's all any of us can do right now. And if you want to be politically active, sure, certainly that's an option too. And I think there's going to be more of this to come. I think there's going to be more street action to come. But that's not really why I came on. I came on to get a little bit away from that. So if you're looking maybe for a little bit of distraction, that's what I'm shooting for today. You can tell me that my dreams are crazy because they are. So let me start with one from last night that was pretty amusing. Um, I have to say, my dreams last night were really just annoying. Um, that was like the theme of the dreams. It seemed like everybody in my dreams was trying to like just be annoying. That's how it felt. And the one that I remember the best, well, and of course you can make an argument that maybe some energies, annoying energies, might be actually stopping by to see if they can give me a little bit of the business while my guard is down while I'm sleeping, which is really sneaky and underhanded, but perfectly in line with the way they operate since I've been feeling a little more, I've been able to keep my energy up pretty well during the days recently, even with all this chaos. I mean, of course, I'll see things that are just like, oh my god, shaking my head, but I'm trying not to get too sucked in. So I guess they just wait for me to go to sleep so that they can slap it on me when I'm defenseless. What a bunch of assholes. So in one of the dreams that was very much like all the other dreams that I had last night, I found myself sitting at a desk or a table, and I was working on a song. I was writing the lyrics to a song, and feeling connected, and you know that to me is has to be a quiet process. So obviously I'm alone when I do that, and the longer I can kind of stay in that quiet creative space, then the more I can write, the more I can pull things through, if you will. So I'm trying to have this pleasant moment in my dream where I'm working on the song, and there's this tall guy, and I think he's in like a brown sweater or something. I don't know why that detail sticks out. And he's standing above me, and he just will not stop talking. He just won't. And not only will he not stop talking, but he's talking gibberish. He's like, he's trying to be, it seems to me, he's trying to purposely be distracting. And not only that, but he's talking gibberish, but then he's also looking down at what I'm writing and throwing some of the words that I'm writing into his gibberish. And I'm getting pissed off because he's completely distracting me from the creative endeavor, and and being annoying. So it's both things at once. And so he keeps going on, and at one point he kind of moves over, and he's standing right next to me. He's on my right side, and since he's so tall, his midsection is like somewhere like right around my face. So I really wanted him to shut up, so I punched him. I southpawed him. I punched with my left hand this way, and to try to get him to shut up. And unfortunately, in real life, I punched my girlfriend who was sleeping next to me in bed. She's called Squeeze, which is short for main squeeze. So I punched Squeeze in my sleep in the eye, in her left eye. And so she yelps, and then I wake up, and she's like, "You punched me in the eye." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." But she knows that I have these active dreams because I kick sometimes, or I flap around, or God only knows what else. Fortunately, I didn't hit her very hard, but I felt so bad. And it's not the first time like she's gotten kind of hit by while I'm jerking around in bed, having some kind of active dream. So of course, when you're not the one getting punched, it's not funny. Don't let me put it that way. But you might get a kick out of it, even though she was the unfortunate victim. But I must not have hit her too hard because I didn't. We didn't see a bruise, but I felt truly awful. And then I thought a few things. I thought, what assholes! Like some energy is getting into my dreams to try to provoke me so that I cause like an accident in my home. So end up hurting someone a little in my sphere, at least when I'm in my bed by myself, which is often. And if I have a bad dream and I kick someone, I mean, I've kicked people before in my dreams, and like the sheets go flying off, and that's how I wake up. But at least nobody gets hurt. I mean, maybe the cat is startled, but not hurt. And in this case, it's like, oh, you did that they did that on purpose. Like they were trying to get me to react that way. So it's like, what a bunch of assholes. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what there is to say about that. Definitely, I am super sensitive to energies. There is just weird energy around right now. I've had really good dreams too, but there's no doubt that a lot of what's swirling around is chaotic and strange. Some of it, and Kim Carey said as much on her channel today. I thought her videos were great. So if you probably know of Kim if you watch me, because she has many more viewers, and for good reason, because she gets great information from her guides. But I thought the information they provided today was really helpful in like sort of like keeping our center as much as we can while all this crazy stuff is going on. So Squeeze is okay. She's okay, but I felt really bad. The night before that, I had a not annoying dream, but a strange dream that has some relevance to recent events. Um, I often dream about being on highways, remote highways, in places where like there's like not a lot of houses or people. And this was another one of those. And in the dream, for some reason, I had two vehicles. I think I had my own regular truck, which is black, and then I also had a white Jeep. And I was in my truck on an off ramp, about to get onto a throughway, and I was aware that I also owned the Jeep, and I had to get the Jeep home too. Don't ask me how I was out there by myself with two vehicles, but that's where it started. But wait, there's more. For some unknown reason, I was about 40 feet in the air inside my truck, and I was aware that like basically my truck was on some kind of pole that was connected to the Jeep below. And I knew I had to get down. So like I had to like kind of like steer a little and like lean a little, and then I was like, I hope when the truck falls it doesn't fall onto the Jeep. But it kind of did. It kind of like fell down sideways and banged the side of the Jeep. But somehow both vehicles were still fine, intact. Maybe they were dented, but they were drivable. So that makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know what that part is about. But in thinking about, well, how am I going to get these two vehicles that I seem to own home? So I had the bright idea that I would get on the thruway. Well, that I would roll down the window, the driver's side window of my truck, and then roll down the passenger side window of the Jeep, and I would stick my arm through my window and into the window of the Jeep, and I would just like carry it side by side with my truck while I drove, like put it in neutral, but carry it. So then I was thinking, okay, well, I'll get into the left-hand lane of the thruway so that I have the shoulder of the road to carry the Jeep beside me. Now, obviously, I'm not strong enough to do that in real life, but in the dream, this made perfect sense and was possible. So that's exactly what I did. I got onto the thruway. I had my arm through my driver's side, and I was dragging the Jeep. And I thought to myself, I have to go slow, but if I go slow and I don't encounter any police, this will work and I will get both vehicles home and it'll be fine. Well, naturally, of course, I see down the thruway that there is a police roadblock at some point, and there's other vehicles that are stopped there. And I'm aware that everybody who has been stopped is filling out like a questionnaire on like an iPad, because the police are looking for someone specific. So when I get to, excuse me, the checkpoint, I'm reading the, I'm so sorry, pardon me. I'm reading the questionnaire, and one of the questions is like, have you ever had a traffic infraction or something for which you were arrested, or have you ever, like, do you have a outstanding anything related to driving? And as I'm looking at the questionnaire, I'm thinking, I'm committing an infraction right now for which I could be arrested because I'm dragging this other car with me, literally with my arm. So how do I answer this question? Because if I tell them what I'm doing, I don't know why they didn't notice, but if I tell them what I'm doing, then I'm incriminating myself. But if I lie and they figure out that I am dragging this thing, then that's also bad. And that's where the dream ended. Then when I woke up, I often will check the news in the morning, and one of the first news stories of the day that I saw, or possibly the very first, was a guy, and this is in real life now, who had been arrested for participating in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, and went to jail and had been pardoned and was out. But while he's been out, he was pulled over driving on the thruway, driving 70 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, which is not that much over the speed limit, but it's enough to get you a ticket. And I did not watch the traffic stop video, but I could see, all I saw was like the one image they showed of the video with the guy in it. I think he had like long hair and a beard, and that's as much as I knew about him. And I decided not to watch it because of what I learned next. So he was pulled over, and even though he was pardoned for January 6th, which was a whole thing to itself, I'm not going to go there right now, but I'm sure you could guess how I feel about that. The police officer realized that he had multiple driving infractions, and he had so many driving infractions, like for being over the speed limit by like a lot, that I think he had a warrant out for him, or he had so many that the cop couldn't just give him a ticket and let him leave. So the cop tells the guy that he has to take him in, and it seems as if the man then panics and says something like, "I can't go back to jail," which would be an understandable sentiment. I've never been in jail, but I'm sure it's not pleasant. And so in panicking, he runs back to his car where it turns out that he did have a pistol, did have some kind of gun. And as he's running back to his driver's side, the cop yells at him, "Don't do it." Like, and he warns him that he's going to shoot. And the guy doesn't stop, so he does. He shoots him, and he shoots him fatally. So the very day after I had that dream about the traffic stop and like the questionnaire on the iPad, it's almost as if the questionnaire is the real life situation for this guy on the thruway, because if the cop had asked him like whether he had a bad driving record, I don't know if he did, there'd be no way he could say yes without putting himself back in jail. And if he said no, and the cop could obviously look it up, then he's going back to jail either way. So I dreamt of that I dreamt some kind of weird parallel to that situation. So I thought that was pretty odd. My family did too, because I told them about it at dinner tonight. So they were like, "That's weird." And that's a response that I get all the time to my dreams. And I agree, it's weird. It's weird. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Oops. I have some notes on my phone to reference. First, I'm going to return a text from my family. They're home now because we went out to dinner together. And I said, "Text me when you get home," because it's still winter here in Buffalo. And there was, we've had a lot of ice buildup. And even though there have been a couple of, there were some days last week that were above 32, we got some melting. There's still a lot of ice everywhere, so it's a little treacherous. And I just wanted to make sure they got home okay. Okay, now I'm going to read from some notes. These are dreams going back, I think, like almost 2 weeks now. I don't know how many I'll get through, but I'll try to get through a bunch if I can. So stay tuned if you're interested, and if not, thanks for watching. Okay, so this is one of the few dreams I've had about the president, who we'll just call 47. And in this dream, he wasn't really like present. I was aware that he, okay, this is the same night that I dreamt about the traffic infractions. Right, okay, so that's what my notes say here. I was aware that he was kind of like in his New York tower. Sorry, I have to turn this heater down a little. Sorry, that was an extreme close-up, I'm sure. I was aware that he was in his maybe former New York tower, and he was at the top of the tower, and there was a young man who I think either lived or worked in the building, who said to me when I was at a lower level or the lobby, he said, "He used to be nice. I don't know what happened to him." And now, first of all, I'm not so sure that that's true or that's ever been true, but maybe someone could believe that if they knew him before, relative to what he's become, which is monstrous. But this person believed it. It doesn't mean I have to believe it. So he says, "He used to be nice. I don't know what happened." And then I had the sense, somehow that 47 has never known any kind of real love in his entire life. Has never had that experience, whether that's familial love or romantic love. Like, he's never experienced love. And that is not to suggest any kind of empathy, because I do find him monstrous. But I don't know if in the context of this dream it was just like supposed to give me some bit of insight, or if it was just super random and who knows why it was even there. But I guess it's interesting maybe that it's the same night that I had the dream about the guy well, I had the dream about owning the two vehicles, and then it related to a January 6er. So they're kind of like tied together. Maybe these are all kind of like people who have not really known a lot of love. But the thing is, with all the harm that they cause, it's very hard to be empathetic anymore. And I'm not suggesting we should be, but that's what the dream was. So, but yeah, in real life, I mean, I told my family today, I said, my part-time hobby is trolling the Wall Street Journal comments sections. I've moved on from National Review because that's a lost cause for now. And now I spend time on Wall Street Journal dropping grenades into the comments section just to be part of the emotional, psychological resistance. And I find that there's a lot of people there who are upset. A lot. For a generally conservative publication, you'd be surprised. I would say the comments generally lean 3/4 to 4/5 like against a lot of the things that 47 is doing right now. And there's a lot of concern, and it can't just be liberals on there. It's got to be people who are generally more conservative. So I don't know what that will mean, if anything, or if it will lead to anything. But at least it means that there are a lot of us who are not going to just roll over for this. At least half the country. I gotta believe that. So, was there anything else I wanted to add to that? Oh, and also you can clearly tell in the Wall Street Journal comments, and I could also tell in the National Review comments, and I could absolutely tell when I dare to visit Breitbart.com, which is, I don't recommend it. There's tons of Vladimir Psi operatives on there commenting, or bots. There's absolutely a coordinated campaign to keep the disinformation coming because it keeps everybody in a state of anxiety, or it can keep you in a state of anxiety. So anyway, okay. So there was that dream. 22 minutes. I tried to do a video about this dream before, but it was so odd, and so it's odd, and it's just not going to make sense. So you just got to roll with it if you want to hear it. So first, let me read the notes, and then I'll fill it in. So I dreamt that I had a smart friend who was tracking distant coordinates on a huge map of the universe. And by filling in this map, he was revealing colorful details and patterns of the universe. But like it was almost like it was being filled in digitally, a little bit at a time, not all right away. And there were a lot of the normal type things you would expect to see if like you were shown like a a photo from a telescope of like the universe, like with nebula and different galaxies and obviously tons of stars. And let's see. Yeah, but I wrote, but unlike the photos of the universe we see with the colorful phenomena at a distance of millions of light years, the phenomena that I saw in this image that he was filling in were much more deliberate. Like there were obvious patterns, as if they had been left there for us to see by the Creator. And they kind of looked, I wrote, they looked like half filled in paintings. Now, here's where it gets very silly, so come with me if you dare. In one part of the sky, and then looking at the map, it was like this part of the sky, like on the left side, and it took up like 1/4 of the sky. So there was something in this quarter of the sky that had to have been thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of light years across in size. I saw a shape that was being filled in, like digitally almost, a little bit at a time. But the shape was very clearly that of Homer Simpson, the fictional cartoon character, because I could see his outline, with his bald head and then the couple strands of hair on top, the roundness of his head, the shape of his body. I think he wears a white shirt and blue pants all the time, and then of course his skin is yellow, and they have like 4 fingers. All the Simpsons have 4 fingers, I think, in the cartoon. So it was so obviously him, even though it wasn't all the way filled in because of the skin color and the pants and the shape of the body. And it took up a quarter of this image of the universe. So, like if you were looking through a telescope, you'd be like expecting to see galaxies and stars, and then you would see a Homer Simpson that's hundreds of thousands or millions of light years across, just standing there in the sky, almost completely filled in terms of the colors. And it just needed a little more data to completely fill him in. And then once it was filled in, it would be undeniable. Anyone looking at it, anyone on Earth looking at it, even the most, with very few exceptions, the most remote person would recognize that it was this fictional cartoon character. So, that's silly enough as it is. So in the dream, I wrote this down. I said to my friend, or my friend said to me, so that means God is Homer Simpson? And I said, maybe, but I think the message is that seeing an unambiguous Homer Simpson in the sky means God is showing off a sense of humor. Like everyone is looking for God, and God displays a giant image of Homer Simpson across the universe in reply, using a character that possibly everyone on Earth knows about to say, maybe don't take life so seriously, enjoy the playful absurdity of life. So that was pretty silly. And in, like where does that come from? I have no idea. Okay, let's see. What else I got in my little dream list here? Oh yeah, this was a weird one too. I wonder how much I can remember. All right, sorry, I have to turn this all the way off. Sorry for the extreme close-up. The heater is on, and it's 20 degrees here in Buffalo, so I use a space heater to fill in a little bit of extra heat when I'm sitting on the couch. I had a dream maybe a week ago about being in a house, like an old wooden cabin. It seemed to be in the past, seemed to be taking place in the past, maybe even during the era of slave ownership. And, I realized that the house had been set on fire from all sides by arsonists, and we were inside. And it was stranger than that because for some reason the flames even came up underneath the bottom of the walls, like they came up the floorboards, almost like somehow when you lit it from the bottom, like the flame traveled up the side from the outside, but then also underneath. So like you had flames licking at you from every direction. And the only way out, apparently, sorry, I'm getting text messages at the same time. Sorry. So the flames are coming in from both sides, but I notice that there's a way out. I look up at some high windows, and it's like the escape route out of the house is drawn like in invisible lines on the wall, like almost like climb up the wall here. And it's almost like there was almost like an invisible ladder built into the wall somehow, like almost like a spirit ladder, like a metaphysical, not a real ladder that you could, if you were tuned in properly, you could see it almost like a dotted outline of a ladder on the wall, and you could actually climb it. Like if you could envision it, you could grab it and you could climb it. And then even as you went up the wall, the pattern that was imprinted on the wall changed so that it would redirect you towards the where the window was. So like even as the ladder, I'm looking at the ladder and I'm climbing it, and it's like a dotted outline against the wall in white and red. And then as I get near the top and get close to the window, the pattern changes and it shows me that I need to like kind of go over this little ledge and get to safety. So it's almost like being divinely guided out of a burning building by seeing a secret way out that not everyone could see, which I thought was just sort of interesting, like as a metaphor. Like I don't know if that's really how spirit works per se. Like say, if you were to extrapolate and say when we're in danger, like we can get divine guidance that maybe not everyone can see if they're not properly tuned in. But I like that meaning, so maybe that's the meaning that I want to take from it. And then what I found that was by climbing this sort of semi-invisible ladder that I could see and then could therefore actually grab, then all the people who were scrambling below also they just followed me, and then we could all get out. So we were able to escape. And it did feel like in the dream, I mean, I don't know if I was actually like, you know, black or another color than white, but it definitely felt like it had a racial aspect to it, that this was like, there was something cruel and unusual about it. But I don't know why, unless it's just, again, sort of relevant to our times. So that was most of that one. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this one. I had a dream. This is harder to remember. I'll just read it first. I had a dream about performing the same concert twice in an old kind of concert theater hall. And with the same band twice. The second time was like a do-over of the first, as if the first performance had been replaced by the second one. But the difference between the performances was the first performance with this band that I was with was relaxed and kind of a smidge imperfect. And after the show, I was thinking, I wish that had been just a little tighter or more together, but yet it had a good feeling to it. And then on the do-over, being hyper conscious of that desire to improve upon the first performance, the repeat, the redo, was a complete disaster. Like almost farcically so, that by trying for perfection instead of allowing for a fun, imperfect performance, everything went to shit. Like everything from, I remember even the microphone I was singing in just like kept sinking lower and lower, like sliding down the mic stand. So I was like playing a guitar and singing, like, crouching down, and then even like turning sideways, like turning in impossible ways, like away from me. So I had to like sing sideways and just stupid. And everybody in the band was like having problems, and the instruments themselves were kind of like moving around the stage, like nothing was like fixed in place. It was just farcical. It wasn't realistic at all, obviously, but it got more silly and farcical as it went on. And then I wondered too, like if that's kind of like sort of how at the time I thought like I wondered if having two versions of the same concert back to back was like we sort of get to choose the reality that we want to be in all the time, or we end up choosing the reality we're in all the time by excuse me by virtue excuse me of our attitude towards the reality we're in all the time. Like it's like they say, like if you expect the worst outcome, you're gonna get it, or if you're trying so hard to like make something be the way you want it to be and you want it to be perfect, you crush it. Like you can't. It's hard to have perfection, and so maybe that's not always the goal. But I know for me as a performer, actually, I accepted a degree of imperfection in performance because it's inevitable. You just, unless you're just the most amazing singer in the world, you can't possibly sing in pitch, perfectly in pitch for an entire concert. Some people almost do, but it's difficult to do. You have to have incredible hearing too. But a lot of times, very, very good is enough. But in the recording studio, I'm the worst because in the recording studio, you have so many opportunities to like fix mistakes or re-record things until you get closer to a state of perfection. And I think that's why I simultaneously love and am challenged by, and also completely I go crazy working on songs in recording studios, because you can get so close to perfection. And when you're trying to create something beautiful, or what you think is beautiful, it's like you want to try everything until you get it nearly perfect. And I have recordings of my own, whether anyone else likes them or not, that I think like, oh, you know what? That's exactly how I wanted it to be. Like, we couldn't have done anything more in the studio to get it to be any better than it is. Whether other people like it or not, it's exactly what I intended it to be. And that gives me a kind of satisfaction as a creative person, like following through on my own vision. Okay, now pardon me. I'm so sorry to do this. I have to return a text. Not professional, but then again, what did you pay for this video? So, all right, let's get back. Let's see what else is in here. Oh, I don't know how much of the stream I really remember now, because now we're probably getting back on a week and a half or more. But I do remember the next stream after it pretty well, so if this one's brief, then I'll try to elaborate on the next one. I'm already at 38 minutes. I had a dream about living in a place like Florida, but feeling no real connections to anyone there. And I was recently in Florida. I went there to Orlando for a vacation in January, early January. And it was great to get away and be in warmer weather for 4 days. But I'm definitely a Buffalonian, culturally, in lots of ways. And I don't think I would do well in a southern red state. I just don't think it would work for me. I have a sense of like that I'm from here and that this is where I belong, and I don't know how many people feel that, but that's how I feel. Like this is the right place for me. In the dream, I was living in a place like Florida and feeling like no connection to anyone. I was talking to people, I was having conversations with people, and just like I just felt like culturally, like I just didn't get it. I didn't fit in at all. Not that I feel like I fit in all the time here either. Actually, it's a problem here too, but it's less pronounced somehow. Maybe just because I at least have friends here, and family here, and people that I do like and interact with here, even if I'm a little bit picky about who I spend time with. And this dream kind of runs like as like a parallel dream to the dream about the house on fire, because in the house that I was living in in this place that was like Florida, not necessarily Florida, but a warm place. When I was living in a small house in this dream, and I think with my family actually, my mom and my brother, and I could see. I was looking through the front windows on both sides of the corner of the house, so I could see out both of these sides of the windows. And when I looked out, I realized that the entire house was surrounded by water. And there was no other house visible anywhere near. And when I opened the door, which was off the right side of the room, the water literally came right up to the door. Like, if this is the doorway, and this is the inside and this is the outside, the water came right up to it and it was perfectly level. And so it didn't elevate and get the inside wet at all, but there was basically, it was a completely flat plane. And as soon as you stepped out of the house, you would step into the water. And then the water, like, at first was maybe 5-6 inches deep, but then it got a little deeper, and then it was like kind of like 2 feet. And then, I could see a sidewalk maybe like 15 feet away from the door. And by the time you got out there, now you were kind of almost like in a little lake. And then it kind of like came up again, and then the water flowed over the sidewalk. And then beyond the sidewalk, sorry, I just had dinner with my family, so sorry about that. It was basically pure lake from there. That's all you saw was water. And so I realized, well, if I'm going to live here, then every time I come in and out of the house, I'm just going to have to know that I'm always going to get completely wet, or get my legs completely wet, or my shoes completely wet. So, like, I should wear whatever, rubberized boots, or I should pull plastic over my shoes, or whatever I would need to do to, like, always be ready to, like, walk through water to get home. But yet it was like, well, okay, I'll make do. And then I realized that there were a lot of people actually swimming in the water that was outside my door. And then I realized that you could swim in that water. So I got in the water, and I was underwater, and everybody was swimming in different directions at different levels too. So, like, as it got deeper, maybe got down to like 10 feet, I could see people above me and like people below me, and keep people going in different directions. And I thought, this is not, like, I was thinking to myself, maybe I could swim laps in this water, which doesn't really make sense, but I like to swim laps at the pool. So, and then it was really impossible, especially when I realized that everybody was going in different directions. So maybe that's a metaphor for the emotions that are going on right now. I don't know. But but then I guess this is kind of gross. A little gross, not very gross. But then I realized that there were also, like, different kinds of sea life swimming with us. And I was like, oh, I can just grab some of these and then just cook them. Like, they were like little, like, I don't know if they were squid or little octopuses or whatever. Stuff I try not to eat anymore. Even though I love seafood, I'm trying to not eat, like, the exotic stuff, because it's probably like alien life forms, intelligent life, like octopus and squid, which I happen to love as an Italian, but I don't have very often anymore. Try to refrain. I know a lot of you are probably going ill, but I mean, I like other seafood too. I like love salmon and shrimp, and you name it. I like it, but thinking of it as intelligent life makes it harder to eat it. But so it, like, basically I end up like scooping my dinner out of the river, out of the sidewalk river. Just bizarre. I don't remember cooking it, thankfully, because that's, the more I think about it, the grosser it is. But I don't know where that dream was coming from exactly. Let's see, how much more is there? Jesus Christ, there's a lot here. Um, the one dream that I really did like a lot, and maybe there'll be a place for me to stop, was this one. Felt definitely symbolic, and it was back out on the throughway again. the mysterious throughway with like nobody around. Maybe it's like a dream throughway. This time, I was about to get on this throughway when I noticed three very young artists on the side of the highway asking for money. And they were kind of like half in the road. And then I realized that there were some other cars coming down the road, but they weren't up to us yet. So as I was going to turn onto this road, I was feeling annoyance because they were in the kind of semi in the middle of the road. And I thought, oh, come on, you know? But they were joyful. They were almost like hippies. And they were just asking for money. And I don't remember what it was for. But then I realized that there was a song on the radio that I've never heard before. Like, I mean, it doesn't exist. But I recognize the singer. And the singer is a guy named Josh Clayton Felt. And he died almost 30 years ago. And he would be about my age now. He was a singer in an alternative rock band in the 90s called School of Fish. School of Fish. Funny. And then he had a short solo career, and he, I believe, had cancer at a very young age, and he made a record shortly before he died. I believe it's called Spirit Touches Ground, that seems to foreshadow his knowledge of his own passing. And there's some really beautiful songs on it, some exceptionally beautiful songs. I think there's a song called Already Gone, like something about talking to someone and, you know, saying something, but I'm already gone. So like the feeling of being out of time. And then there's another song called Dragonfly, but you can look these up. They're probably on YouTube. Josh Clayton Felt. Dragonfly is really cool because it's sort of spiritual, and the lyric is, if you want to get through to the other side, let the dragonfly come and give you a ride. Every day you're born and every night you die. Let the dragonfly come and give you a ride. And the song is about a road too. I think he even says like the opening line might be something like, if you feel your road is ending, if your partner isn't there. It's really good. I get emotional hearing those handful of songs. I think they're mostly at the end of the record where like you really get this feeling of moving on. And I have another kind of connection with him because this is in my first book, one of the opening chapters, when I was about 26 or so, and I was playing in a band from Buffalo that would travel a little to the college towns in New York and Pennsylvania and occasionally Ohio and New Jersey, just for like these one-off shows. I mean, when we were young, we would drive these insane distances just to play one show, maybe stay overnight and come back, because that was fun. That was fun to us, you know. And one time the band played in Oswego, and we were playing as a trio at that time, and the drummer and I traveled in one vehicle, my vehicle, and the guitarist traveled in another one. And it was winter, and I had one of the then new Chevy S10s. It was the first truck I ever had. The only problem with those trucks, early light-duty trucks in the late 90s, was they were extremely lightweight, and they were prone to fishtailing because they didn't have enough weight and mass in the back to keep stable on like icy roads. And so a lot of people, I later learned, were using sandbags and other things to weight down the back more. But it was like the same era when like some of those mini vans that they were making, like that were weirdly shaped and top heavy, were flipping over. like rolling over on the thruway because they weren't like weighted. The weight wasn't distributed properly because they must have been trying to make them lightweight so that they would use less gasoline. But in doing so, they made them too prone to flipping. So I had this new truck. I'd had it for a week, a green truck, Chevy S10. And on the way home from Oswego, the next night after the show, we had stayed over at a friend of mine's apartment, a friend I knew from Buffalo who was going to school there. And I hit a patch of ice, and I lost control of the truck, and the truck started to fishtail backwards, and we crossed the median on a country road and clipped the ditch on the opposite side of the road, and the truck flipped on its side. And we were listening to Josh Clayton Felt on the radio at the time because I had his CD. And we were kind of surprised, but we also kind of knew we were going to flip. Like it was, you could see it coming. And I remember yelling to the drummer, whose name was also Rob, like to hang on. And we landed on his side. So that crushed the whole side, the right side of the truck, smashed the window. He was okay, thank God. I was okay. The woman in the house on the side of the road was like yelling, oh my God, over and over. An ambulance came and they checked us out, and we were fine. We did feel fine. A tow truck came, uprighted my truck, and with a crushed side, it started right up, and we drove home. We stopped at a gas station or other store and bought plastic bags and duct tape, and we taped the whole right side of the truck so that it would keep the wind out. It didn't do it very well, so we had a kind of cold ride home. And then I had the truck completely repaired within a few weeks. Insurance covered everything. Completely new sides. It was like it never happened. But we had been listening to Josh Clayton Felt, a different record, and around the same time as that happened, my brother Steve was getting a lot of visitors at that time. He was more psychically sensitive then than he really is now. And one of the visitors that he thought he got was Josh Clayton Felt, who said hello and like wished us well and held up a copy of my CD in the vision that Steve had of him, and said that he liked my CD and stuff. So I don't know if like there's some kind of like a deeper connection that I have with this guy, but I sometimes will say like aloud in messages that I can hope he can hear on the other side, that I'd love to like work with him on music on the other side, because he played everything on his records, as I recall. He played all the guitars, and he played drums really well too, which I don't play well. So I thought it'd be cool to work with somebody like that who could play all the drums too. So I don't know if there's something deeper there. He was also part Native American, I believe. So like when you see the record Spirit Touches Ground, it has some of the symbolism that you see in Native American art, which I don't know much about. Though I own some Native American art that my mom and I bought on the Seneca Reservation here. That's really beautiful. Not either the prints behind me, but some other ones. So, jumping all the way back to this dream that I had with the three young people on the side of the road asking for money, and me being annoyed by them being on the side of the thruway entrance. Then the song comes on the radio before I get to them, and it's by Josh Clayton Felt, but it's a song that doesn't exist, or which I've never heard before, not in the real world. If it exists, it only exists on the other side. And the song, right, was about generosity and like being supportive of to young idealists, and idealism being so important, and to not lose sight of this. And so, in the moment of hearing this song on the radio, and the message in the song being strong, it changed my attitude about the kids on the side of the road. And instead of being annoyed, I slowed down, excuse me, and I rolled down my window. And even though I knew I might hold up traffic behind me, I gave them money, and felt good about doing it. Yeah, that's all the notes about that one. So it was like pausing to get more in tune with what matters, to not to put energy there. And I think that's a good place for me to stop. I see I'm coming up on 55 minutes and 55 seconds in 3, 4, 5, right there. So if you made it all the way through, thanks for listening and watching. I appreciate it. There's still a few more dreams in here, but I'm getting a little tired, I must admit. And if I come back, I'll try to get those N1s if anything are worthwhile, or if I remember enough. But I'm glad to end on the Josh Clayton-Felt dream, because that one resonated a lot at the time. I think it was part of me starting to come out of the feeling of maybe a little bit of despair at the way things had been going since late January, and feeling like, okay, just gotta stick with what's important and what matters. Do the good you can do in your small world, like I said, which I do most of the time. I really try. So that's about it. Love to hear your comments and feedback. That'd be great. And see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.